Hello everyone and welcome back to Best of the Month. This is, surprisingly from the name, the monthly show where a bunch of creators get together to tell you what they have most enjoyed playing in the last month. Now, these board games don't need to be brand new. In fact, mine certainly isn't a new hotness release. It's been out for a number of years now, although there might be a new fancy edition on the way. Well, you'll hear more about my pick very shortly, but let's roll some other creators.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Clay with BeerCityBoardGames. My best of March 2023 is Earth. This game does a lot of things that I really like. It has a similar follow action mechanism like you would see in Puerto Rico or Race for the Galaxy. It's got some incredible variety at startup because you are, at the beginning of the game, dealt 3 cards, and each of those cards are double-sided. And that's going to affect your starting setup for the game, so you're going to have some important decisions to make right out of the gate. On top of that, there's a big stack of objective cards, so there's a ton of variety there. And the game just has a really great sense of progression as you go through. You're going to start off with just a few actions that you can do on a turn, but by the end of the game, you will have built up enough of a tableau in front of you that you are going to be doing a lot of really cool things by the later rounds. So if you have not checked it out yet, definitely go take a look at Earth.
Hey everybody, welcome to our picks of the month for the month of March. I'm going to go ahead and pick an unusual one like I like to do. There is a designer in Japan named Pawn. I don't know anything about this designer. I've never been able to figure out who this person is, but they've designed a bunch of solitaire card games. And I believe I have them all at this point. The first one was called Sheffy. And then there's this weird gorilla and banana one. Then there's this Karen and the Pirate Island, which is one I like to talk about a lot. And then the newest one is called Fish, Farewell, Forever. And this is my pick of the month. And in this game, you are using cards. You have to get rid of your entire deck. And you get rid of your entire deck by using like other cards to pay for other cards to discard them. Which sounds more complicated than it is, because all you're doing is, trying to get cards from your hand and get rid of all of them. And the theme is you are trying to rid yourself of your earthly possessions, your earthly desires, and move from your existence into nothingness. Right? Sounds weird, right? So once you do that, you move cards from the beyond to the lost shore. And then if you can successfully do that, you can start moving other things from the beyond to the far shore, including the board. And you can move the tray. You can rid yourself of that, and then once you do that, you can actually rid yourself of the instructions. Which is strange, but all of these games are difficult to achieve, so they're a good challenge. And I know I probably explained that badly because it's a weird theme, but basically it's a deck dissipating game. So does that make sense? I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and say that Fish, Farewell, Forever is my pick of the month because it is a fun challenge, and it is in a series of games that I enjoy. So yeah, that was it.
My pick this week is My City, which is a fun game where you have these pieces that get drawn from a deck, and then you have to place them onto your board, and your board gets weirder and weirder as the farther you go in the legacy game.
Yeah, it is a legacy game.
But the goal is to try and get all of the pieces to fit in your board, but that's probably not going to happen.
And get the most points.
Yes, the more empty spaces you have, the less you'll get negative points, and more points from other things that get put on your board the farther you are in the legacy game.
Yeah, no spoilers, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. But they're all polyomino pieces, yes. Right? Like weird shapes that you try to fit together onto your little board. And then there's different envelopes you open up for each chapter that kind of introduce new rules.
You'll get like sticker sheets or
Yep.
like even do tile
Yep.
sometimes.
Yep. We're, what, about halfway through the campaign,
Yeah.
maybe? Something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. All right, well, anything else more about that one?
No.
Okay, well, thanks for having us on this Best of the Month. Yeah, I guess we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm Devin,
And I'm Mary Kate,
and we're picking up pieces
a channel all about board game pieces.
and how to pick them up. And in today's Don't Be Boards video, we're discussing Village Rails.
Our game of the month.
And it's a game of local motives and local motives. Just saying it, best tagline in all of board gaming. Convince me otherwise.
So in this game, you basically have a little tableau of this village, and you're putting down rail cards so that you can go from one side of the tableau to the other.
Yeah, and so the game, it's constantly you having to do a lot of thinking, a lot of managing. I have to do this one action, but if I do this one action, it's going to affect me later. Because whenever you're putting down little rail cards, it goes in two different directions. So not only are you building off of one rail in order to complete a trip, but you're also building off of another rail that's going to affect that trip as well. And so whenever you reach from your tableau that's an L shape, like so, you reach to the edge of the board and it completes that rail.
And so you get these rail cards by drafting them from a set that's out in front of you, and you have coins that you can then pay to get cards that are further down the track. You get trip cards, which basically give you goals that you're trying to achieve in the game. They get you points once you complete the whole rail.
Yeah. And whenever you're completing this rail, they have little symbols on them that either end game scoring or affects like the type of terrain you're traveling through. And these people want to go through these different type of terrains because they're needy, and and so you have to like, the same number of terrains or the different number of terrains. And so trying to manage the different terrains for the different rails is, again, every single decision you have to make always has a double side blade, it's either going to hurt you or help you. And so you're trying to manage them that best to get the most points possible.
Yep.
So that's Village Rails, and that's our game of the month. Thanks so much, guys, for watching, and also thanks to Don't Be Bored. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, we are, and I was gonna say, okay,
We don't know. Who are we? If you recognize us, please call. Number at the bottom of your screen.
hi, we are,
Inspired the Game. I'm Sean.
and I'm Lola, and today we're gonna share with you our top plays for March, right? It's March. March is the month. March
is the month.
March is the month. Okay, I'm going to bring out my favorite play of the month because I've got it right here, and it is Planet Unknown. So Planet Unknown is my play of the month. What's yours?
Well, here, let me get it. It's Planet Unknown.
It's the same thing. What are the chances? And Planet Unknown is a polyomio game where you are transforming a planet. And as polyomio games go, this one has a lot of fun. So I love the theme of it. I love the aspect. So as you're putting out your different pieces, which are dictated based on where the Lazy Susan turns, you get to sometimes move around a little rover, collecting up meteorites or life pods. You get to choose different tracks to move up based on which tiles you're taking to trigger extra rewards and extra things that you can do. And it's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and every turn, it's simultaneous play, so it's really quick. What you're picking from is the section in front of you, as the other players choose which section they're going to pull from, and getting powers, you're getting points. It starts, the base game has everybody plays the same planet and the same corporation, and you can advance to where you're all playing a different planet and asymmetrical player powers, and just a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of variability that way in how to play it. It's kind of endless because of all the different options of different planets and different corporations that you can play. And my favorite is just moving that little rover around on all the pieces. It just makes it so much fun. So this is a really fun game. If you haven't checked it out and you like polyomios, check it out. We are Inspired to Game. And Happy gaming, folks.
Hey everybody, it's Chris and Angie from the Chasing Meeples podcast. Can you believe it? Another month, Angie.
A month.
This year is just flying. But you know what's really awesome about that is we played some good games this month, and we want to talk to you about two that we played. One just completely knocked me out of my socks, and my socks weren't even wet. If you listen to our podcast, you'll totally get it. All right. So, first game I want to talk about is Hive Pocket. Hive Pocket, it is such a simple game. Sorta. I mean, there's a lot of thinking in on this game, but we've played this game a lot this month. It's kept us entertained. We take this everywhere we go in the everywhere we go in our Jeep, and it gets us through long waits in restaurants. Let's just say that. So
It does.
it's pretty awesome. If you haven't had a chance to play Hive Pocket or check it out, or even Hive, I suggest you guys check it out. So I'm going to say this is our honorable mention for the month. What do you think?
Oh,
honorable mention.
Okay.
It's a thing now. Like
Okay,
I'm
it's
just
a thing.
starting honorable
Okay.
mention for the month.
Okay.
So Great Western Trail. Holy cow. Holy cow. Oh, where has this game been all my life? Seriously, I love this game. We played it for the first time this month, and Angie has said it before, and I totally agree with what she has to say. The sign, it does happen, hon.
Mark it down.
The sign of a good game is one that you can't stop thinking about when you're done playing it. And my goodness, I have been thinking about this game like constantly.
It's because you lost.
It has nothing to do with the fact that I lost, but I did. I was going all in on cows. I totally think
The land baron beat the cattle baron. My favorite part of this was the fact that I wanted this game for a long time and kept passing it up to get something new, something that just came out, something, FOMO.
FOMO.
Finally we picked it up, and it is as good as I thought it would be.
We should probably be talking more about the game and the mechanisms and all that, but you know what? Just take our enthusiasm for it. If you haven't had a chance to play Great Western Trail, do not do what we did. Don't be like us. Don't pass it up. Play it. You're going to love it. See you next month.
For my pick this month, I haven't played too many games multiple times, which made it a little bit harder for me to pick my favourite game. Normally, it's one that I've played over and over again because I've had the opportunity to, but this time it was a game I've only played once this month, and that is The Castles of Burgundy. Despite losing quite heavily, it was just a really pleasant experience coming back to a game that I really do enjoy. Now, I'm very happy that I've got the special edition on the way, the one with the fancy, ridiculous, over-the-top miniatures for the little castle pieces. But the actual gameplay, where you're taking from that central market, you're trying to maybe get some extra silver to splash from for that tile in the black market in the middle, just when an opponent takes the tile that you were hoping for. You've got your dice that you've rolled, but you've got workers that are allowing you to either knock that number up or down. So you've rolled a 6, but you've got that worker, so it could be a 5 or a 1, and that's giving you choice. All of the different buildings have different effects, and then all of the different, are they monastery, the yellowy tiles, they've all got different scoring effects. It's a game that you can play over and over again, and it's always good fun. And the fact that different boards have slightly different layouts, It's not a huge game changer, but it does mean in one game, early on I'm going to go for some of these animals, try and get a group of pigs together that are scoring lots. The next time, well, maybe you need to go for those buildings or that boat early on. It's just a really enjoyable game of using your dice that you can manipulate very nicely and very easily as well. Using that to get some tiles and then place them onto your board. Now, I don't normally like dice all that much, but the mitigation in this, there's the perfect amount of it. There's even special tiles which you can get that means no one else around the table has, that you can treat maybe a dice higher or lower, or your workers can be 2 higher or 2 lower rather than just 1. It's got all the right bits of a really classic experience. I would recommend you try it out. Check it out at like a board game cafe, or get one of the older versions. You don't need the brand new fancy one that's not arrived yet. The old versions, I've still got like the anniversary edition on my shelf, which is just a little bit more colourful than the original. Absolutely brilliant game to try, and well, maybe you'll enjoy it as well. And if you do, well, let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling on. Let's see what some other creators picked.
Hey friends and gamers, it's Frenchy. I hope March was a good month for you and that this video finds you well and that you were able to play a lot of good games this past month. Frenchy's pick for Game of the Month for 2023 is going to be Lacrimosa. Lacrimosa is a nice Euro game which takes you back to the times right after Mozart passed away, and you are a patron, going through and trying to find the fragments and things necessary and funding to go ahead and complete his last symphony, the Opus Requiem. In this, you're actually going to be doing things in 2 timelines. You're going to be going ahead through the present and being able to go ahead and find fragments and commission other composers to help put his symphony together. Yet at the same time, you're also going in the past by going through Europe and tracing his footsteps to find the funding, find those fragments that you need in order to get that put together. The gameplay really happens on 2 fronts. Each player has a player board in which they have a starting deck of 9 cards, and so they're going to be using 2 cards every turn to go ahead and either place in the top of their player board by inserting that and exposing the top half and getting the action from that, or on the bottom half, which is going to be income and resources needed for subsequent turns. And so each turn you're going to be playing 2 cards, drawing 2 cards until the last turn, where you're actually only going to be drawing the remaining card in your hand. But each deck is going to have, or each card's going to have, these dual ability to play on the top or the bottom. You're also going to be managing your resources on the board and then going ahead and executing by selecting cards on a draft style on the top of the board, or moving the Mozart token around throughout Europe to go ahead and find parts of the symphony and get extra resources needed as well. But remember that the Mozart token is movable by all players, so everyone's going to have to understand where they're going to have to manage their resources and where the Mozart token happens to be going in order to go ahead and get it to where they need to be. The bottom half of the board is a nice area majority section in which there's going to be 2 composers there that are going to help with the commissioning of the Opus Requiem, and players will go ahead, and as they complete some of these quests, they're going to be going ahead and placing their disc on certain of these symphonies to go ahead and claim that. And so you can place your disc either with the 8th note or 16th note on either side of your disc to claim that. And then players that have the 8th note or the most of the notes that are there will claim majority points in that symphony. Players with the least will claim the least amount of points. This game is a really smooth game. It looks a little intimidating when you think about it, maybe because it's the theme. It's actually a very simple style of play. A little bit of deck building, area movement, area points, card drafting, area majority, and then managing your resources. The game production is beautiful. The game just is a top-notch quality all throughout. The player boards are double layered. You also have a little shield which acts as a 50 and 100 point token. The cards slip into the recesses there in the board, so it only shows what's needed when you play them. You have recess boards to go ahead and put a lot of your tokens in. The artwork is beautiful. The game's very easy to learn. Obviously, will be a little bit of a bit to go ahead and master, but I think that's the nice part of it, because what the game designers have done in this game have really mirrored a theme that may not be as accessible to people, it might be foreign to a lot of people, and really put it together in some great solid mechanics that makes it pop. Works great. I played it at the Dice Tower West Convention earlier in March, had a blast with it. I've been able to play it a few more times. It's been a resounding hit, quite possibly one of my top games for 2022, but for March 2023, it's my favorite game, and so that's why I'm featuring it this month. And that's it from Frenchy. Anyway, until next month, take care of yourself. Play nice.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel joshyaks, where I talk about a wide variety of topics, mostly related to unplugged hobbies, although my primary focus is board games and books particularly. So my favorite game that I played in the month of March is a new edition of an old favorite of mine, and that is Isle of Skye Big Box. I love Isle of Skye. It's such a fantastic little tile laying game that has an interesting economic element to it, as well as a point scoring system that changes vastly from game to game and creates a lot of replayability. And so originally, when the first big expansion for it came out called Journeyman, I purchased it immediately. However, when I read the Journeyman rulebook, I instantly said, I'm not including all this garbage in my game. I didn't even try playing it. I sold it immediately. And then sometime later, when they came out with Druids, I read the rulebook first and I thought, okay, this is more up my alley. So I picked up the Druids expansion for it. And then along comes the Big Box edition, which adds a couple of the original promos, plus the Druids expansion and another element or two, particularly the Borderlands module, which you can add into the game. And I thought, all right, I'll sell my old stuff and gets the new big box. Now, what was funny about it was they included pretty much everything in the big box except that Journeyman expansion that I refused to even try playing, which made me chuckle because I was like, all right, even the publisher is admitting it's kind of a garbage expansion and they didn't want to include it with everything else here. But anyways, I love the big box. It adds the Tunnels promo, it adds the 6 special tiles promo, it adds the Druids expansion, which turns the game from one that isn't great with 2 players. I always kind of enjoyed it best at 3 or 4 players, but now with the Druids expansion, the 2-player game is so good, you get so many more tiles per turn to add to your little territory there. You go from an average of roughly 2 tiles per turn in the original base game to now having 4 tiles per turn that you can add to your territory, which does a couple things. Obviously, it creates a much more interesting game in terms of creating a larger territory, as well as creating a lot more point scoring opportunities, so you do have much higher scores. But then when you also add the Borderlands element to it, the actual building of your little clan becomes so much more brain expanding, and you're adding even more tiles to your territory. And we found that each turn, especially as the game progressed, the challenge of building in the new, roughly 4 new pieces you added each turn with the Borderlands was so difficult, because the Borderlands do add more scoring opportunities, but at the same time, they limit the ways you can expand your territory. They create kind of dead ends in it. So there's so much interesting stuff going on in Isle of Skye Big Box. It's taken a game that I rated 8.5 out of 10 and bumped it up even higher to 9 out of 10. I can't wait to play it again. Cheers.
Hey buddies, welcome to Amass Games. My name is Simon and today I'm giving you best of the month for March 2023. So in this particular month I've chosen the AEG game Point Salad. I first played this at an inaugural event in London, a convention, and had a chance to see it there and then also play it at another convention last year, I believe, or maybe even the year before that, whereby they have 6 different types of vegetable, in this case being point salad. They're related to obviously vegetable salad ingredients, and point salad comes from a mechanism relating to how you can score games. There are Stefan Feld games that do that. So there are 6 of vegetable. I'm going to talk about carrots because they're my favourite of these types of vegetable, not a big fan of those other ones in particular, and let's not talk about what this one might be. So either on your turn you can take 2 different, or any types of vegetable combination you like, but 2 of the 6 in the display, or you can take 1 point scoring card. So it can be either a type of vegetable, or if you flip it over, it can well be a point scoring card. 6 of these will be visible, and there'll be 3 point scoring cards available as well. So you can choose to take 2 of these or 1 of these throughout the game, 1 time on your turn. Optionally, you can flip over 1 of your point scoring cards, including the card you have taken. And you will notice, I have noticed until only today in fact, that the vegetable on one side is never mentioned on the other side, funny enough, which is quite interesting. So let's show you how you can score these cards. I'm going to pick carrot, as I just mentioned, because it's my favourite of these types. So here are some point scoring cards. So right now, if I did choose to actually not have had that one, maybe this came over like this, I would have scored 5 points for having 2 cabbages. That's sets. So what else can I score? Well, again, I chose not to have these. I chose to have 2 points per carrot. So if I had 2 carrots, that's worth 4 points. If I had the most carrots, then I'd be scoring myself 10 points. In this case, if I had a pepper and a carrot, then I'll be giving myself 5 points. So again, if I had 2 carrots and 2 peppers, that's 10 points. If I happen to have some 2 carrots, let's say I had 3 peppers and 1 lettuce, then I score 8 points for this one. And again, if I had some carrots, some lettuces, and some tomatoes, 8 points per combination of all those 3. So they do all chain together. The game ends when all those cards have gone. The amount of players you have scales based on how many cards you can have out. And aside from that, what you do want to be aware of is it's a very quick game, can take 10 minutes. So normally it is usual to play multiple rounds. Nice cards, I haven't chosen to sleeve them as of yet. They're plasticky, so probably like 350 GSM. So I haven't needed to sleeve them, but it's been quite effective. Nice artwork, as it's symmetrical, apart from the fact, obviously, that you do have an orientation of the particular vegetable in place, and you can get other versions. I know there's Pokemon and I think Mario and stuff like that. Nice concept. These are the guys who did Cascadia amongst other games, and they have made other games in the series. There's a new game also in the point lineup as well, so you might want to check that out. And obviously you can tell they are good for your throat, good for your health, so make sure you do eat them and hopefully not get a tickly cough. Any other questions, obviously, please do let me know in the comments of best, and of course, like and share. And hopefully you'll find it of interest. I look forward to speaking to you for the month of April next month. I've already got things lined up. Thanks very much for watching, and for now, back to the table.
Hi, it's Barb, MeeplePhD, and my favorite play for March 2023 is Teeter Tower. This is not the great strategy game, but it is super fun. It's a cooperative dice chucking dexterity game. You throw it all together, you get tension, giggles, and just a big box of fun. So this is a game where you are cooperatively trying to build up a tower by placing tiles and then dice on top of it. But you have specific placement rules for those dice. So your tiles are going to come in 3 different colors, and you're going to have dice that come in the same color. On your turn, you're going to grab 4 dice out of the bag and roll them. And then you're going to look for which tile is going to best match the dice that you chose and rolled. So on each tile, there are these white spaces that have a number in them, and you can place any die with that number in those spaces. You're also going to have some background color on that tile, and you can place any die of the matching color on that background color. So you're going to play up to 4 of your dice. You don't have to play all of them, but you do want to create kind of a stable base for the next player. So you place a tile, you place your dice, you pass on the bag to the next player, they're going to roll, and your goal is to get all of the tiles out, plus the topper tile and a little spire at the top. You have to be careful not to run out of dice, so you might play all 4 on the first couple of layers, but then you're going to get more careful about how many you're going to place, and then are we keeping the center of gravity in the center of the stack? Or how are we going to, figure out how to finish this off without, placing all 4 dice? Plus, you can't always play all 4 dice because maybe you haven't picked out the right colors that you need for the tiles that are out there or rolled the correct numbers. Here's the deal. There is a lot of luck in this game, but it's super fast. It's super fun. You're giggling the whole time. You're tense when you're playing your dice. You're wishing that everyone does well. You're not trying to screw over the next player, which I actually kind of love because that would be really easy to do in this game. And if it topples over, you have a big laugh, you shuffle up the tiles, and you try again. So just goofy, fun, not strategic. I don't care. Been having a blast with it. That's Teeter Tower. So you can find me on the internet as MeeplePhD on Instagram, Twitter, and I have my own YouTube channel where I connect astronomy and board games. If you love astronomy and clearly you love board games, come on over. My channel would be perfect for you. I also have a blog at MeeplePhD.com. And otherwise, I will see you next month. Have a great month gaming.
Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are BoxedMeeples, and another month has come to an end. As you say, it's coming into spring, although it did snow in March. Bit weird. But we're back to talking about what our favourite game was that we played last month.
when you back a Kickstarter, you get to prolong that element of expectation, which we all enjoy.
Yeah.
We pretend we don't, but we do. We don't mind it when it's delayed, really. We get more updates to read and more progress videos to watch. We love it when it's delayed. We just get to prolong the excitement.
Are you just trying to do controversial opinion and not Game of the Month right now?
Well, a game I backed about 2 years ago was Distilled, and boy howdy was this worth the wait. I fully invested in the campaign. I backed at the top level I could do. I got all of the extra components, the neoprene mat, the coins, the cubes, the metal cubes.
Oh, the first player marker, that's immense.
The fancy first player marker. And the game's arrived, and it hits the table with that element of anticipation when you've gone all in and you've spent quite a bit of money on a game that you hope you're going to like. I was hearing good things.
You were,
As you approach the conclusion of the campaign, I've seen it on a few different videos, and since people have been playing it and showing it off, and they seem to like it, I really loved it. Obviously, I like the theme of it. I really like the idea of making your own spirits, and it looks a bit of a beauty on the table. It's got a real quality table presence, not least because of obviously all the fancy components I have, but the artwork's really nicely done. And there's lots of kind of nice attention to detail just that mixes through the theme into both the mechanisms of the way you play it by removing elements of it as you're brewing your spirit, but also just in the sympathetic way you have the labels that match kind of spirit labels. It's all very, very nicely done. And the game itself is good. I really like the kind of mixture of market trading, choosing which elements you're going to buy, and the kind of push your luck elements that you get in this game. It isn't really a lucky game, and I think often it kind of is being dismissed as that, when really it's a luck mitigation game. So if you don't want to run the risk of losing, add more cards, so that removing 2 cards from the deck won't affect your outcome. And obviously, even if it does affect your outcome, hopefully you've built like a safety net underneath it, so that you may not get the spirit you want, but you'll get still a good one.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, you're going to get moonshine, which still itself does good things. There's lots of kind of elements in this game that work really well together. There's, even just in the base game, without the Kickstarter extras or without the expansion, you're getting probably a dozen different distillers, which you can choose from to players. Each have their own abilities, and each can actually make their own spirit. And that's really nice, because it means that different combinations will play a game differently. And also you have the tasting flights. So the spirits you can actually make during the game are different each time you play. And there's lots of different combinations of that. Quite a lot of cards to buy in the market. So it does feel very varied each time you play.
And the end of game points, like your personal one and the ones that are open for other people, they're also going to vary. And they might mesh well with your particular personal spirit that you're kind of brewing as well, so that will change your gameplay around depending on those two.
And we haven't played. I think it does outstay its welcome a little bit with 5 players. I think it's realistic. It says here on the box 30 minutes per player. I think it's more likely 45 minutes. We play a kind of 2-player game in just over an hour, I suppose.
I think it will get quicker the more we get used to the game, though. So I think the 5-player was our first play, and so that did suffer time-wise because of that. We didn't know the game, and that will improve. But maybe we'd play with 4 in the future.
Yeah, I think 4 would be the sweet spot. 3 or 4 would be a great.
But I do appreciate that they do take it to 5, because there's so many games out there that are to 4, and then we often have a group that is that little tiny bit bigger, and it does open up that world if we do want to, and we're not bothered about the timing in that particular evening.
And I liked it too because it does take into account a faster refreshing market.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking very positively about this game, but there are some elements I wasn't particularly fond of. I found the kind of player markers were too big, so we've got to look at an alternative for that, particularly with 5 players.
Yeah.
Very tricky to know exactly where people were on the board because it became very crowded with the wooden ones. And yes, like I said, it does take up quite a lot of space on the table, but it's got a really great table presence, so I guess it's kind of one thing or the other. Like I said, I have really enjoyed our time at Distilled. I think it's going to become one that we quite often get off the shelf. Someone has already asked, they didn't get to play it with us because obviously it went up to 5. They saw it being played and they said, "Oh, can you bring that back? So I'd like to play it as well." So yeah, it's a good one. I can see us playing it quite a lot and hopefully getting the full value for money from my Kickstarter investment.
Yes, I do think that it's one of those that once you have learnt it for that first time, it's going to be super easy to pick back up again. Whereas some other games, if it's been a few months and you've gone through that trudge of learning it, got it to the table, think yes, brilliant, and then you kind of a couple of months later, it's been slightly longer than you hoped till you get it back, and it's kind of almost like starting at scratch again to relearn. Whereas I don't think that will be the case with this. I think it's quite intuitive play. I think it will be quite easy to get it back out and replay.
Intuitive is a great word to describe this game. It just feels like a natural play, and it all fits in well. It doesn't seem like there's a rule that seems just to be really abstract and bizarre. It's very well thought out. Really enjoyed it.
My game of the month came about on my trip to Aircon, which was obviously magical. If you haven't watched my video about Aircon, then do. We went to one of the Watch It Played events. Paula was answering one of the questions from the audience, and she mentioned a game, Poetry for Neanderthals.
This is Paula Deming from Watch It Played.
Paula Deming, yes. And I hadn't heard of that one before, but was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And it turns out some of the people that I was with happened to have a copy with them that they'd never played before. So we went back and we thought, let's have a little play of this game. It sounds quite fun. It sounds great. And so basically what you're doing in Poetry for Neanderthals, it's very much a party game. And this was obviously an evening of a convention. So everyone's sort of into that mood at that point in time. I was working, but they've had their sort of core big games in the day, and then we've all had dinner, we've gone to an event that the convention's putting on and done all of that, and now it's time for lighter party silly games. And in this one, you are split into two teams, and you're each trying to kind of get the name that's on a card, much like you do in many other word games. But in this one, you can only talk in one syllable. So basically like cavemen, that's where the Neanderthal bit comes in. If you break any of the rules, you get hit on the head with an inflatable club.
Which comes in the game. It's not like it wasn't just someone's weird house rule.
No, it's just that I randomly added that in. There's an inflatable club in the game. So if someone breaks the rules, they get bashed. And you basically, each card has 2 words on it, and one of the words, the bottom half, is a longer version really of the top half. So you can go for the top word and get 1 point, or you can try and go for the harder, longer word and get 3 points with your when you're trying to get your team to guess it. But you've just got to make sure that you're only using 1 syllable words, which when you're in that kind of fast-paced, quick thinking, on a timer situation, all you can think of are the long words. That's all you can think of, and you're like, oh gosh, how many syllables is in that? Nope, can't say that word. And then my first time, I think I sort of basically froze. And I was like, I don't know how to say this. And then the minute the card comes up, someone else is like, oh yeah, you could have said this, and I'm like, oh,
well, of course I could have. That's so obvious now.
I think I was better the next time. I just needed to get into the mode of it. But it was super funny, super silly. Like, we had been playing Just One a lot because they had giant Just Ones at Aircon, and then we'd done some after in the hotels and things like that. And it has that kind of party fun, wordy vibes, but just with extra silliness because the club. Obviously, probably maybe play with people I'd only met them that night, so...
I just find it really strange.
But you make friends easily that way, by clubbing them.
Yeah. I just find it really strange that you would choose your game of the month a party game,
yes,
whereas I'm choosing a kind of midweight market game. How we've all changed in there from each other.
Yeah, but, I think that I was always going to pick something from Aircon because it was such a nice time to be at the convention, to meet new people, new friends, and all of that kind of stuff. And obviously when I was working there, I didn't really have the opportunity to play some of those bigger games, maybe some of the new things that people have had recently arrived on Kickstarter, or things from the library, only a bit of evening time. And by the time everyone else is is getting to that part of their evening, they're looking for something maybe a little bit lighter. I spent a great amount of time having some fun games of Dodo. Some of those were hilarious. Also played Savanac Forest loads. Really enjoying that game. So much fun. We have also got a
got a playthrough of it.
We do.
On the channel.
Yes. But I just felt like this game just is always going to remind me of making new friends at that convention. I went up on my own or with a colleague, but I was on my own in that evening, having met new people, playing a new game, one that probably, you know, is a bit crazy to be playing with people that you've never met before. And it was just so fun, so friendly, so it's always going to remind me of those sort of vibes from that con. So I thought that it was worthy, even though it wouldn't necessarily be one that I would normally, you know, pick for game of the month, because it's not my kind of standard go-to game. But yeah, it was definitely worthy of it. It was a really fun time.
Anyway, that about wraps us up today. Thank you very much for watching. Let us know, out of all the picks, what was your favourite? And if you've got a little bit of time, check out my top 100 games, which I'm going through at the moment. Something else for you to check out, in the description box below are all of the creators involved. Their links will be there, so you can go and give them some love, listen or watch their videos, subscribe to them and all that sort of jazz. And, well, until next month, have a great month gaming.